What's up, people? Welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, the world's best brutal, new, death, hard, slam, grind, thrashcore metal show. I am one half of your hosting duo, Jay Horsecow. With me, I have my partner in crime, the notorious TIM. Tim, how's it going?
Great.
I know you wish it was hotter. Too bad, sucker. It's winter. Enjoy the cold weather. And with us again, we have Jordan Sloan from ZoneZero and 8,000 other projects. Jordan, thank you for joining. We haven't let him go home yet. He's still in the studio with us.
It's crazy. I've been here for weeks.
we just keep feeding him liquid death and Wawa hoagies. He's really unhappy at this point. So what are we talking about this week? So this week we're gonna have a fun one. Goddamn, David beat us to it, but we're gonna talk about the sophomore release from LA's Bad Boys, CrazyTown. We're gonna talk about Dark Horse. Tim, kick it off.
Oh man, dude. So I've never heard this record until we talked about it, and I put it on and I was like, all right, first track. I'm like, damn, this is pretty heavy. Actually, they let off with a pretty heavy track. I get the tracks 2 and 3. I'm like, yo, this shit is really fucking good. I am like, I can't believe how good I think this record is. I'm like dumbfounded over here. Like I listened to, what's this track called? Give me 1 second here. Like Hurt You So Bad. Such a fucking great track. So fucking good, dude.
If I could post Tim and I's chat history, it literally is. There's a good half dozen messages. It's 3 from Tim, 3 from me. Random intervals since the time we set the recording date versus when we recorded, of him and I going back and forth going, literally, it's the same text, copy and paste it. God damn, I can't believe how good this album is. Like I bought this when it came out, but I don't think I ever listened to it because at this point, what is this, 2002? At this point, I'm all Poison the Well. But I like the first album enough that I bought it. This is a fantastic album. Jordan, you said to me, I think it was over chat, you said they're like the white trash cousin of Linkin Park, but they do it so well.
Yeah, it's just such a weird blend of like I don't know. Every element of it is there with them being like in this record, having like this being like their Linkin Park record. And it's such a good mixture. It's just, I don't know, like Linkin Park always just seemed very like, oh yeah, I said a little less streetwear, a little more white trash.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's just very like apropos to this entire conversation about this record. Just because that's what it is. Like these are just like these weird, like tatted up gang banging dudes who just make a great record. And like I think this was just like there. And there's a small making of this record. I think it's like a little EPK or whatever about this record. And they were like, yeah, last record was pretty good, but like we knew we could do better. And so they went ahead and made this record, and they were like, we really focused on making a solid record. And I think, to its credit, I think that Howard Benson produced it, and I think he did a hell of a job on it. I think he really pulled the best out of these guys when making this record.
And another, before we dive any further, another funny anecdote to this album before we go into it. When we first interviewed Jordan, we had it was a different text chat, and Jordan kept telling us, guys, you don't understand, Dark Horse is better than the first CrazyTown album. And Tim and I would be like, yo, get the fuck out of here. And Jordan kept saying it, and here we are. We've both come around to that point of view.
Yeah. I couldn't get enough of it. It was, I mean, don't get me wrong, the second half of it gets a little stagnant, but
that's what I have here. I said the A side's better than the B side, but none of it's bad. I think they just kind of maybe overloaded the A a little bit, but I think the B side does have some hidden gems for sure. So like take it to the bridge. Is that that's all. I have my note. It literally just says take it to the bridge and jump the fuck off. Because that's the hardest line on that whole record.
Yeah, it really is.
That's one of those like just late stage heaters on that record, and it's so good.
So I have listened to every interview that Shifty Shell Shock has done, because I find him a fascinating guy. You know what? I got to remember, Tim, to put it in the show notes. So let me forget the interview he does with Toby Morse and One Life to Live. The podcast was great, where he's talking about being in rehab and escaping and working for some drug dealer doing graffiti art. Like, he has amazing stories. But when they talk about this album, to your point, Jordan, they said they were literally done. And so Tim said to me, we were going back and forth, and we said, why wasn't this album bigger? That was Tim's question to me. Why do you think in hindsight, this album wasn't huge? And I came up with it, landed with 2 things. It was the fact that this came out in November 2002, this is where streaming is taking off. This is where, Napster is in full force. So everybody's downloading. Yep.
The late stages of new metal.
It's late stage new metal.
Getting ready to be taken out back and shot. So
yeah, right. It's like, who is this band? Full Devil Jacket? Yeah, no. And the other thing I think that did them in is, and I think Shifty has talked about this. He might have actually just talked about it with David on Life is Peachy, where the record label had no idea what to do with it because they wanted Butterfly. They wanted Butterfly 2, Butterfly 3, Butterfly 4. And these guys got together and said, well, fuck you. We're going to go make a fucking heavy album because we can do it.
We're putting real guitars on this song.
Yes.
Like that's
yes. And I think the label they had no idea what to do with it. They had no idea who to shop it to.
They were expecting to be there's another band. Is it Project Wise? Is the other band that was like very like rappy,
think so.
Kind of new metal-y, but like mainly a rap band. Like
I think so, yeah.
Very like I think that's what it was. They were like another like weird like early 2000s Ozfest band. I think they wanted them to be that. Like they were like, oh yeah, you'll be kind of a weird little mixture. Like mostly you're like a cool, like you guys are the rapper guys. You guys are the Eminem with the band behind you. And then like they went ahead and made like a real rock record. And then they were like, oh, what? Like what? We wanted you to do this. And they're just like, well, we didn't do that. We actually like were a band and went into the studio and made songs as a band. And they didn't like that. So
do you think, Jordan? So there's been stories, right, where that CrazyTown was almost signed by Immortal, the same label that had Korn and Orgy and all them. And then they passed on that because they went in a different direction. They went to the label that offered them more money, which God bless them. Like take the money and run, right? Tim and I always joke. Tim and I always.
Was it Warner that they were on, or was it? I don't remember who it was.
I don't remember who they ended up with. It was Columbia.
Okay.
But I remember the story where they were playing across the street from the Rainbow and Korn was there watching them. Linkin Park was known to watch them perform. Do you think in an let me ask you this, Jordan, do you think in some alternate universe, there's a chance that there's an alternate universe where CrazyTown is actually bigger and more successful than Linkin Park?
There's gotta be. I think if this record had been made earlier than when it came out, like if this was like, because first record is like 1999 and then they spent like through 2.5 years like making this record and doing a follow-up. I know they did like a shit ton of touring and everything, but like just because they had like such success off Butterfly that they just couldn't stop being on like being put on tours and everything because they were pushing that. If this had been done earlier than 2002, like late 2002, I think this thing could have potentially skyrocketed. This is just like, I don't know. This is such a sleeper record for like people who just, they may overlook it just because of the name CrazyTown being attached to it. They're like, oh,
Absolutely.
They're the Butterfly Band.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like if you really take the time to listen to this, like I was late when I listened to this. I was maybe like 13, 14 when I found this record, and me and a couple of friends were obsessed with like the Drowning video. And just sending back and forth, like, because we were trying to start like our own band and we were trying to be like a thrash metal band, but I was like, we should cover that song, it's so good. And then that's when I was like, oh fuck it, I'm into new metal. Like I'm just full bore into new metal.
You can't hide it anymore.
Yep, no offense, Corpse Grinder, this is my thing.
it was sick. And so, but yeah, I think if this had been some alternate reality where this had made its way into the universe, like maybe mid 2001, they could have got a lot of traction out of this. Like they may have inevitably, split or done whatever. Or even maybe if this had been earlier and they would have had some time to develop off this record, they may have had the steam to keep going and, kind of went where Linkin
right.
Maybe eventually making records that didn't sound exactly like this, but still could have kept going. But I think since it was so late in the game, like even they admit, they're just like, they weren't mad that this record didn't do as good. They're just like, we made a record we wanted to make, and that's what we went with.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I do think they are the less clean. They're the friend that your parents don't want you hanging out with. They point to Linkin Park and they say, your parents say, go hang out with Linkin Park. And then CrazyTown's over there, I don't know, doing what in the corner. And they're going, yeah, stay away from that kid because that kid's trouble.
CrazyTown to me is the, like, we have Linkin Park at home. That's what that is.
So I'll start with you, Tim. What do you think is the best song on the album?
Ooh. That's a hard one. Let me look at my notes here. I like I said when we first started, I think "Hurt You So Bad" is one of the catchiest songs I've heard in a long time, and I'm pissed off that I just heard it now. So you know what? That probably is my favorite on the record, and then "Drowning" would probably be next.
That's my
I think the first 6 or 7 are just bangers all in a row.
I think that first 4 I consider like one of the coolest like rock blocks for me. Is like those first 4 are just like perfectly in line with each other.
Yeah.
They hit
Yeah,
all
like
they hit all the spots. It's so good. Like that first riff right out of the gate, it just kind of hooks you in, and then you get, is it "Hurt You So Bad" next, or I think it's the second one, reels you in with that hook, and then "Drowning" is the real emotional one, and then they kind of pull you back in with whatever that next
Change is the radio song. Yeah.
And then "Change" is the big radio one with the big, lots of clean guitar and everything. So
What do you think is the best song on the album, Jordan?
I think "Drowning" is. I think an underdog is like "Candy Coated."
That's a great one.
Good call. Good call. That's a sneaky good song on this
chorus
album.
is good. It's still got the screams in there. Like it's kind of tucked back a little bit, but it's so good. I think I agree now. Like I think those first 4 are great, and those are actually like when I pull up on Apple Music, those first 4 are like the most listened to like on this record. That's just a perfect rock block. But I could even stretch it out to that 6 because like "Waste of My Time." I think I said that in my notes. I said "Waste of My Time" is a stripper anthem. Like I could see that being played. Like
yeah.
Somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just happy that you said Apple Music.
He's like, that song is a pole greaser, is what he would say. I heard that about a new Nickelback song recently, and I thought that was so funny.
That is one hell of a descriptor.
Candy Coated sounds like POD to me.
Honestly, yeah, I could see that.
I have my note for Candy Coated. This is the song that I picked out. Should have been on the Gifted Game. It would have fit right in.
With like "Dark Horse" is a good one on that one. So, or not "Dark Horse," "Dark Side."
Yes.
That's yeah.
My favorites. I think it's a toss up between "Drowning" and "Battle Cry." Because I think "Battle Cry" is ridiculously heavy for the second half of this album. There's double kick, and
heavy
I think,
Linkin Park vibes on that.
Yes, and I think it wasn't the first single released, but I think this is one of the early songs that started showing up on compilation albums around that time when the label was trying to build the noise for them. Because "Drowning" was released in November, and then "Hurt You So Bad" was March. I want to say in August, and I should probably call David from Life is Peachy. We should like conference him in. It's only 10 a.m. there, right? We can conference him in. I think he talked about that, how he actually found this song on like a sampler somewhere. It was like, ooh. But yeah, I mean, "Decorated," "Hurt You So Bad," "Drowning," "Change," "Candy Coated," "Waste of My Time," "Sorry," which is a straight up ballad.
Oh yeah,
that sounds like
ballad.
Sugar Ray.
Yes,
that's what I was gonna say. Is it's very Sugar Ray like.
That's like a song you hear while waiting to get your haircut at the haircutter.
Didn't you call it that, Tim? Haircuttery metal? Wasn't it your term? Yeah.
Yep.
But
Sports Cuts metal.
Supercuts the mixtape. "Sorry," "Battle Cry," "Take It to the Bridge," and then from there the last 4, "Skulls and Stars," "Beautiful."
Them Days is fun. That's a fun song.
Yes. Well, but yeah. But they're a fun band. Of course, they're going to add an album. But I think there is so much good in the first, like you said, 6, 7, 8 tracks that you got a stripper anthem, you have a radio single, you have a ballad, you have a rock song, you have something that could be an MLB pitcher's walking out intro music. And that's the other thing. If you go back and listen to "Decorated," there's no intro on this album. No. It's the guitar riff, and it goes right into the first song.
Which is sick. That guitar riff hooked me. Just hearing that, like when I went back and listened to this in full, like after hearing like "Drowning" and stuff for years. I think it was a couple of years before I like went back and listened to the whole record. I think I was maybe like just into high school, and then went ahead and checked out the entirety of Dark Horse, and then that and I was like, "Oh, this is cool!" Like, wasn't expecting it to kick off with a guitar riff. I was expecting it to kick off with maybe like a sampled intro or something.
Right. Everybody had an intro back in the early aughts. It was the thing, and these guys went right in with the song.
Good chorus too. It gets stuck in your head. You think you'll hate it. When the first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know. And then it gets stuck in your head. You just keep saying the dack, R-rated. And so it's
Mhm.
I want to talk about something that we didn't talk about yet. I know we talked about how Howard Benson did the record, but then you have Chris Lord, Algie, whatever fuck his name is. He does the mixing. So like that combo is fucking deadly right there,
dude,
man.
it's so good. It's producer to mixing engine on that is just it's
Like
such
that's a deadly combo right there that I was
And
very surprised to see.
given good source material already, and then having it just be mixed by one of the top dogs
Yep.
is just so good.
yo, I
Elevate.
didn't realize this guy, Chris Lordalge,
Mhm.
whatever his, he did American Idiot.
Mhm.
He did Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
If you like
He-
a record, he probably mixed it. Like
Yeah.
21st Century Breakdown. Like he did all of Green Day. Owes this guy some serious fucking money.
Oh, he gets paid for sure. From what I understand, I don't know if this is like slander or anything, but from what I've heard, he'll send you a mix, and if you want revisions, like from revision 1, he'll charge you like out the ass, because he's like, why should you need revisions? Like it's perfect. Like it's so good. What do you want changed? Like what do you want? So
And I'm sure you being like a mixer as well, like you use a lot of his presets probably. So
yeah, it's I'm like overhauling. Like I have a little area in our new place that's like set aside for an office. Kevin, our old drummer, is giving me a desk, and so I need to go get that and everything and set up my stuff. And I have got to re-up on the Sweetwater stuff and get my new monitors and all that stuff. But that was one of the things on my list, is like the Howard Benson vocal suite and all that
There you
stuff.
go.
And just looking at all these different things. But yeah, like for sure, those are big inspiration. Like I know I'll probably never mix anything huge, but just that's always what I aim to get when I do like demos and stuff, is I'm just like, make it sound good. And I'll reference some of his records to be like, oh cool, this effect that he did on this is so cool. And his remixes on like some of the Seven Dust stuff, there's like a few songs where it's like Chris Lord Alge mix or whatever, is so good. So
yeah.
but I always forget that he mixed this record, and but Howard Benson produced it. So yeah, lethal combo.
Hole, Rod Stewart, James Brown, Green Day, Little Richard, Savage Garden, Sarah McLachlan, Marilyn Manson, Oasis, U2, the Rolling Stones, Peter Gabriel. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's a fucking OG.
He's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is no joke.
He's up there with like Brendan O'Brien and who's the other guy? He mixed Iowa.
Not, I want to say Dave Sardy, but it's not Dave Sardy. It's who's the guy that mixes everything? Is it Alan Duchess? Alan Duchess?
No, he's a mastering.
Mastering. He does mastering.
Yeah.
But no, I forget. He mixed like Linkin Park and stuff too. He mixed like the first 2 Linkin Park records. Who was it?
Wikipedia.
Andy Wallace.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes.
He touched a lot of stuff too, and I think it's so funny because he went back through and like he's just an older guy. Like you wouldn't think anything of it. You just saw him on the street. He just looks like an old guy. And then he's just like, yeah, I mixed one of the heaviest fucking records you've ever heard in your life. Like, no big deal. So another top dog, but
that's a record
wild.
we have to talk about is Iowa soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably and I'm thinking out loud, probably ruining the mystique here, but some of that big name stuff that we do deep dives on, I'd like to get like a panel of people who are interested. Right. Like I know we talked about doing a panel for and this was ages ago, but we talked about doing a panel for Volume 3, the Subliminal Verses, with Adam from Orthodox, the guy he knows who's in Catabasis, and then Matt from Boundaries, because they're all big fans.
Get Knox from ZoneZero in on that too. Get him on this. That's his favorite Slipknot record.
Okay,
it'd be awesome. I mean, I for those bigger ones, I think I would like to get a panel, because we can have a lot of fun. And Jordan's amazing in the sense as a guest that he takes us on these wild tangents as one person.
Yeah.
But like
I never mean to. I'm like, oh, we got a completely off topic, but it's always fun. It's always just takes us to the place I never thought we'd like talk about or whatever. Like I have notes, and then I'm like, oh, I didn't talk about any of this shit. So
that's good. That's the whole point of it.
What would you guys say is? I mean, we talked about how it kind of stumbles in the second half. What would you say some of the weaker songs, or the weakest song in the album is?
Like Skulls and Stars for me is like,
yeah, I could live without that one too. It just, I don't know. It's one of those like I don't mind it being on the record, but like I wouldn't miss it. So.
Right, that was my pick. I was like, I could probably do without this song.
Yeah, I think the last four, the last four, 2 of them are the hidden tracks. I could do without all 4 of them. It's like I feel like Jordan said in the beginning, I think they blew their load. Well, he didn't say that, but they blew their load in the first 6, and then they just got kind of stale on this. But the record altogether is great, man.
Yeah, straight listen through. It's heat all the way through. It's so
Yeah,
good.
that's the other thing. I didn't fast forward through one song, and if I was I listen to this shit while I work sometimes, and if I'm listening and I'm singing along to "Hurt You So Bad," and then I get into a meeting, I stop paying attention or whatever, and I come back and it's a waste of my time. Well, I go back to the beginning of the album and I was just restarting, which
Oh,
is what
yeah.
it took me forever to get to the end of the album because I needed to chunk the time. But yeah, it's highly listenable. It's highly enjoyable.
Like if you don't like cherry pick the stuff you want to listen to out of it and you just listen through straight through, it makes sense as a whole. Like there's some songs like you're not gonna just like pick out and listen and just be like, oh, that's my favorite one, or I really want to listen to that
Right.
one. It just makes sense in the scope of the entire record. Like,
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's how I feel about that too. Is just if you just listen through all the way straight through, it's so good.
This is see music for me is like a vibe. So like this is a summer record. This is a record. This is a record you put on at a fucking barbecue where you're outside fucking having a couple drinks with your buddies and having a good time. Like this is a good mood record right here.
Especially being having Seth or Shifty be on that song "Starry-Eyed Surprise." You guys remember that song from like all the
Yep. What was that?
Yeah,
Paul Oakenfold, right?
Yeah. And I remember hearing that and not realizing it was him until like years later too. And I just think that's I always lump that in with like CrazyTown stuff, but that is like a summer, like if I'm making like it's a nice day, I have the day off, I'm going to go walk around Columbus and do whatever. Like that song's on the playlist. That song is
fucking great, Jordan. Let's admit it.
Oh, good.
That song. I mean, you took a great electronic guy and you take the singer who's big at the time, and that album was terrible when I bought it. That song made it all worthwhile. My
it's
God,
so
it's
fun.
perfect. It's
so
perfect.
Good to just put on a place like that. It just makes you feel great. It just feels like sunshine. That
yes,
like sunshine.
The one criticism I have from this album is so it's a step in an aggressive direction. It's well produced. It's brilliant for them. The juvenile part of me misses that almost sneering attitude that Gift of Game has. Like we've talked. Yeah, well, we've talked about it with the other bands that have that smarmy, snarky, will eat a dick, I'm better than you type attitude. This is a little too polished for me, especially coming from the last album. The best example I can think of is Snot, right? Lynn Straight, no matter what you can say about that band, whether you like them or not, they came off with this really snotty punk rock attitude. They had that Gift of Game, and while they took it up a level in aggression and songsmanship and craftsmanship in this album, it was missing that almost juvenile, that's what I think was missing.
They realized they needed therapy, and then that's when they decided to just talk it out on this record.
True.
First one, they were like, "Oh, I'm so much better than you," and then someone's like, "Is everything okay at home?" And they were like, "No," and then they made this record.
Well, you make a good point though, Jordan. The other thing we haven't talked about yet with CrazyTown is they were wild men, right? I mean, the DJ, the original DJ or the second DJ passed away.
He was a guitar player.
DJ AM, Rusta Peak passed away.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a history, right? Shifty has talked all about his struggles, right? And how it's just it's day to day. It's just, they had trouble keeping it together, and I get it. I mean, it's LA, a lot of money, drugs are around. Of course, you're going to go a little fucking nuts,
Yeah, the drugs, the women, the alcohol. I mean, it all catches up to you.
100%. Let me ask you guys this: have either of you checked out their later catalog?
I was literally just going to bring this up.
Yeah, I think
they put out a new single that's really good.
Oh yeah, it's like CrazyTown X or whatever the new version of it is. Yeah, it's actually not too bad. The one they put out with like, everyone kind of not really I guess original lineup, but like when they were still the two vocalists and everything. So that record is pretty good.
Is that Brimstone Sluggers?
The Brimstone Sluggers, yeah.
Brimstone Sluggers. It's pretty good. I think it's not bad. Like I always forget that it exists. I mean, I guess that's to its credit, like how much of it I remember or really, think about. I think it's pretty good. I'm not too keen on, but like not too into Crazy Town X. Like I just haven't really paid attention to it that much. I'm sure it's good. I think I've heard the last single they put out, but yeah, I'm glad it still kind of exists and still doing its thing. I mean, like, it takes a lot to keep a band like that afloat in 2023. But I kind of wish they were one of those bands that like would like we're kind of big on the whole new metal thing back in the day, but would kind of catch its second wind now that it's like a resurgence and be like the legacy band that comes back. I think it'd be kind of cool just to see them have like a bigger, like it's kind of sucks that the 20th anniversary has now come and gone of this record, but like it'd be cool if they were still around like 2027 or whatever to do 25. But I think that'd be kind of, yeah.
Shifty's gonna be around. That guy, there's no killing him. He's like Keith Richards. He's gonna.
I even had it in my notes. I was like, this album is so melodic and like sweet and everything, and very like beautifully written and everything. But I was like, I swear to God, Shifty show so I could probably kill me with his bare hands. So
speaking of bands like that, it's kind of like Orgy. Like they're still going, and it's just like a shell of the band. It's just pretty much Jay, but it's like. They're the type of band where I wish they could just get that resurgence out, because I fucking love Orgy.
Yeah, there's a lot of bands where they missed, for whatever reason, timing, bad decision making, whatever, just the life not working out. They missed their chance, and there's always those bands who are like, I'd like to see them get a second breath, with the new revival, and all this new metal, like no longer being a dirty word. There are a bunch of bands out there that they probably wouldn't be fair to give them a second listen and say, hey, you know what? Wasn't that bad.
I still kind of think it's a dirty word though.
And I'm glad some of those are coming around too. There's so many records I see now where people are like, was I wrong about this? Like, was this actually a pretty good record? And it's and I'm just, that's the whole time I'm just like, this is what I have been trying to tell you. It's so good. And I'm glad you're now realizing it, but like, you're so late on this. It's so good. And this is one of those records too, when everyone's like, oh, Crazy Town, the Butterfly Band. I'm like, no. Here's what you do. You put on Dark Horse and you like it. Okay.
I am very guilty of what you just said. So
yeah. And it happens. Like I did that with a couple records. I did that. I don't know what, it's been a couple different records, but like always turned off by like their fan base or whatever. But then I go back and listen to it and I'm like, you know what? Like I'm going to catch every single piece of shit that flies my way for this. But that's how I feel about Ghost. That band kicks ass. No one can tell me any different.
I would agree.
I think they're so good. I caught them on accident waiting for System of a Down at Sonic Temple in 2019, and hell of a show. That band has never once said that they were like a metal band, but everyone's like, keep this band out of metal. They're like, we've never once said we're a metal or a rock band. And I always hated that band. I was like, they're so stupid and everything. Then I gave them a chance. Yeah. I'm like, oh shit, this kicks ass.
It is Scooby-Doo metal. Right, it is Scooby-Doo metal, but to your point, Jordan, they write good fucking songs. Like they write good songs. I would, if somebody had tickets for me, my buddy Troy, shout out to Troy, he's always trying to bring me with him. If he called me up tomorrow and said, hey, I got tickets, would you go? I would go, because I really want to see it, because
the live show. Yeah,
there are just some of the songs. The one song I get stuck in my head is the one they have the real long form video with the, I think it's Dance Macabre, I think.
There's that one. I think it's called like Cerici or Cerise.
What a fucking great song! Like
I was hooked into it when I didn't realize who it was, because I saw him and was like, that was awesome. Don't know if I'll listen to him. And then it was when Halloween Kills came out. The credit song when that movie ends is Hunter's Moon, and it was written for that movie, and it's on the new record too. But I was like, oh man, what is this? Shazammed it in the theater. Oh man, it's Ghost. And then I was like, oh, I don't like that. I don't hate this. Like, oh, I like this. What the hell? And then I went back and listened. I'm like, oh, and even like was still kind of on the fence. And then we were making the Red Temple Pray EP. I don't know if Josh ever talked to you guys about that.
Yeah, I've heard it. It's good.
So
good. It's good.
Thanks. And so when we were making that, we made it with our friend Jeff, who used to play in a band called Fever War, and another killer band. But we were recording that stuff with him before we sent it off to Andy, and he was listening to a Ghost riff, and I was like, what is that? And he goes, you're not gonna like it, it's Ghost. And then kept playing more of the record, and I went, God damn it. And I went and downloaded the last 2 records they put out, and then on the drive home from West Virginia back to Ohio, I listened to the whole thing, and I got home and I looked at my girlfriend and I said, I like Ghost now. And she was just like, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Like, I'm mad about this.
So I'm also a believer. Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm also a believer that sometimes when it comes to fans and bands, right, us and especially us with who listen to extreme music, who have let's be honest, very very large palettes. Sometimes it's just not the right time,
Oh yeah.
and you'll find a band and you'll go, it didn't hit for me, and then you come back and you're like, what was I fucking thinking? Like this is unreal. What was I thinking?
No, yeah. Yeah, it's been that way with a bunch of different shit. But same thing with like coming back to Machine Head from when we talked, however many weeks ago about Earth Crisis. But when just talking about that band too, like going back and like I didn't like The Blackening when it came out. I was like, oh, I don't like this. This isn't the heavy stuff that I like. And then I grew up and I was like, what the fuck was that nerd thinking? This is sick.
Yeah, sick
So
record.
cool.
Yep.
But no, this record's good. I'm glad I came back around to like this whole record. It's so good.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that it only debuted at 120 on the Billboard, because it's like you would think with the success of Butterfly, like people would go out and like buy this in like droves. You know what I mean?
At least if like even if they didn't like it when they listened to it, or like wasn't it what they expected, like even just the numbers it would do based off of their track record as a band, you'd think that they would sell a lot more. But I don't know, maybe it was also few and far between records. I mean, it was 3 years between this and the first record.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
So
I think
let's do the touring thing yet. So who did they tour with on this? Do we know that?
I don't know if they did
Find out.
any.
I think I'm gonna.
You know what? I think you're right, Jay, because they did break up like right after the record came out, right?
It was virtually. I don't even know if they did much touring or even like any at all, because I think that was like 2003-ish when they decided to just throw it in. So
They were definitely doing the late night circuit, though. I know I seen videos from that, like probably Conan or some kind of shit back then. I think he was like the big thing back then. But they definitely were doing the late night stuff, because I seen a lot. They did the AVN Awards. I know that.
oh wow, okay.
AVN.
Yeah, they did that. And everybody in the crowd was like, what the fuck is this shit?
That's hard as hell.
Jordan, you would play the AVNs. I would play the AVNs. And everybody would play the AVNs and give me the opportunity. So they did tour a little bit. It began in Phoenix, Arizona. It doesn't say who they toured with.
Oh, you know why you're looking up? We forgot that Rivers did the solo on.
I have that in my notes. I just have Weezer and all capital.
Yeah, right? Yeah, what a weird combo right there.
It's funny he had his hand in the new metal honeypot, because it was this and then writing "Stupid Girl" with Cold and like
did he do that?
Yeah, he wrote that song with them.
Oh
and
shit, okay.
It's kind of funny now. I get it, because that song is very like, I don't know, if you put that song in like a major key and had like Rivers singing it, and those are the only two differences, like it would just be a straight up Weezer song.
Like, yeah, you know what? You're right.
It says their first set of headlining performances started in January of 2003. It was 3, 6, 9, 12 dates. Phoenix, it's all Southwest. Phoenix, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah. They went as far north as Seattle. And then it was San Francisco, Chico, Bakersfield, Fresno, Anaheim, and LA. And it looks like that's where it kind of stopped.
Doesn't really say who they toured with either.
No.
I'm guessing it's probably like more mainstream acts. If like a Papa Roach or something.
Because I pulled up like that Setlist FM. The last show they did before making this record was October 27th, 2001, and that was it was just in California. It was a breast cancer benefit. And then the next time they played after that was almost a year later in 2002. Wow. Pepsi Chart Live 2002. And but that's like they went like a year and made this record. But even finding stuff from like doing January 2002 or January 2003, December 2002 stuff, there's nothing. Like it just doesn't show who they played with.
How many women do you think, like, say you're single, right? And like you go to like some woman's house, some girl's house, whatever you want to call it. How many girls do you think out of 10 probably have the first record just sitting in a collection all dusty and shit because of that one track?
Out of 10?
Yeah.
9 of them in the 10th would lie about it.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah. 9 of them in the 10th would lie about it.
It's like it's like you're one of them dudes at Tinder dates like fucking 30 girls at 2 months, and it's like, Yeah, 28 of them had the first Crazy Town record in their collection.
There's gonna be I just think it'd be so funny in the next couple of years where some kid on TikTok's like going through my mom's CD collection, and it's like pulls out like Gift a Game by Crazy Town. And is like puts on first track. It's like, I don't know what the fuck she was thinking, but this is crazy.
Or it's like you find one of your girlfriend's old CD books and you're just going through it, and it's like, oh, you like this? There's fucking Gift a Game, and half of them probably go, I don't even remember what that is.
God.
I am looking for 10 rock and metal tours from 2002 we wish we could see now.
Oh,
Where is? Oh, it's not. It's a different. Oh, what a fucking crap linking. The tour support slot. Oh well, they supported the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but we knew that.
that's right. Wow.
Because Pretty Little Ditty is what led to Butterfly.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I did not know that, but that does not surprise me. That's what I would think. Like, for some reason, I'm thinking like they would tour with like 311 for some reason.
That'd be fun.
No,
Yeah.
like a 311, The Urge, something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yo, not for nothing. We'll talk about both those bands. I haven't seen 311 in probably 20 years, to the point where if they do their typical summer tour, I'm going to go see it this year, because I went and saw them. The first time I saw them, they were touring off the self-titled. Korn was touring off their self-titled, and it was at the Roseland with Monster Magnet opening. And I'm pretty sure I was baked out of my mind because all the guys I was with smoked beforehand. But they put on an amazing show, and it's just feel good music. We just talked about 311, and then who else were we talking about?
Urge.
Oh, you'll know that trends are truly recycling if ska comes back.
Oh yeah.
If ska makes a return.
Unabashed ska fan.
I love the Urge. I think
more like ska punk, I guess, but like that stuff's fun. Like our like it's like me and our manager talk about Operation Ivy a lot. Like
okay.
Like ska punk bands and stuff.
Well, there you go, Jordan. That's your next project. Some voodoo glow skulls.
Oh, that would be kind of wild. Big Bad Voodoo Daddy, like cross it over with ska and like some swing. There you go.
That was another thing. I have an old Warped Tour 98 VHS tape, and tons of like swing revival bands and stuff. One band I love, speaking of like the whole like rockabilly swingy like kind of shit, is like you put on Reverend Horton Heat, I'm dancing, and that's such a good band. And just shit like that is just so good. I think I love shit like that, like Tiger Army and stuff like that are always so good.
You know who you should check out real quick? Coffin Cats, spelled with a K. Koffin Cats, dude. They're fucking great.
Sounds awesome. I'm gonna
Psychobilly stuff, hell yeah.
That stuff's awesome. I don't care what anybody says. That stuff's awesome.
Oh, it's I the older I get, the more I respect all that stuff. Where it's like, look, even if it's not my thing, the fact that you're getting to go out there and play the music they fucking love and creating a fucking audience, everybody's enjoying it. Like, God bless them. God bless them. One of my favorite movies I saw last year just won a fucking award. Elvis. Did you guys see Elvis?
No,
I haven't seen it yet.
Yo, I'm sorry. My three options to go see a movie. It was for my birthday. My three options were Elvis, Thor: Love and Thunder, which is a fucking travesty. We're not going to talk about it. And Nope, which was I really enjoyed.
Okay,
Elvis. Tim's taste is terrible.
No, I didn't like Nope.
The Elvis movie, not only is it Baz Luhrmann, so it's going to be big and giant, and the colors are going to be popping right off the screen.
I mean, Great Gatsby was one of the best films of its
time. Yes, so. Romeo and Juliet, right? Another soundtrack we should deep dive on, which is totally outside of our audience. Is like, yo, what the fuck? There's a scene, and it's not a fucking spoiler. Go watch the movie. At the end of the Elvis movie, it's the guy who played Elvis singing at his last set that he did, his last show, and they zoom in and they zoom out, and it's the actual footage of Elvis singing. And it was like legit, like I got chills. And I will watch anything music related, but that movie was really, really good. Not as good as Bohemian Rhapsody, but it was really, really good.
I just to jump off that, me and my girlfriend just saw the Whitney Houston movie.
Was that good?
It is perfect.
Okay.
Like, unbelievably good.
Okay.
It was so well done. Like, I don't really care for when movies try to do like the time period thing where it's like kind of like time traveling a little bit.
Mhm.
But you can clearly see, like, from it's kind of weird how, like, when people viewed the 80s, how it was like the 80s through media versus the 80s like everyday life
In real life, yeah.
and they do it so well with like portraying like the different decades, like how you viewed them in like pop culture and stuff. You could clearly tell when it was 80s Whitney Houston going into like the early 90s, the mid 90s, the late 90s into the 2010s and stuff like that. Like, you could clearly tell they did it super well. None of it was phoned. It was so good, and just the way it's all structured, it's incredible. So
I am
biopics
laugh-
are so good.
laughing at the two of you that you never got to experience Hypercolor in its heyday. You never got to experience pegged jeans, the Rat Tail, Z Cavariccis, Skids, members only jackets. What other the
Jay, you're
Reeboks?
forgetting I'm almost 40, right?
Well, you're close. You're close. The Reeboks with the one. You remember the Reeboks, Tim, with the one Velcro strap?
Yeah.
I have a pair of those.
The 80s were totally. It's one of those where you look back and you go, "My God, were we totally insane? Like, were we totally insane? What was going on?"
I live like mentally in that decade often, like just thinking about it.
My
Hair
Yeah, your
metal is one of
VHS
my
collection's
all-time-
getting there.
Dude, it's crazy. Like,
yeah.
we were in the studio and I was talking, I was like, dude, I was like, don't even get me started on like hair metal. I was like, I will talk for days about hair metal.
The riffs, dude.
Yo,
That
fucking
is one of the best bands of all time, no matter what genre you put them in.
when it
Fucking classic.
when it comes to perfect albums, not a bad track, start to finish. There are few albums that will go toe to toe with Def Leppard's Hysteria.
My fucking guy.
There are few albums that will
That's
go
right.
toe to toe with that. Speaking of the 80s, my wife is 7 years older than me. So she literally came of age in the 80s. There was a picture hanging in her parents' house of her and her two sisters, and they all have the Iron Wave, the giant wall and then the carpet bangs. And
My mom had that in her wedding photo.
And well, now we're talking age here. And I used to joke with my in-laws. We would joke about like, who's going to inherit the house. And I would say, I just want the picture with the 80s bangs. Like, that's all I want. That's all I want. I know I'm the son-in-law, so I really don't get anything, but I want the picture with the 80s bangs. I really, really do.
I saw Def Leppard with Motley Crue over the summer with that like whole tour they did, the stadium tour.
Oh, nice.
Motley Crue was actually pretty good. I mean, a lot of it was like, that band, if you want to talk about like a band that people were like, I wish the bands didn't play to tracks. I wish they would play like 80s bands played. Okay, Motley Crue was all tracks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Put on a fucking hell of a show. Def Leppard was perfect. Like,
and it's almost the original band, right, Jordan?
It's pretty much everybody. It's
the singer,
it's
the guitarist.
It's everyone after Steve. Was it Steve Clark?
That passed. Yeah.
Like Phil Collin or whoever took his place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, went from at least like 92 on, still in that band. Like, it's everyone original from at least like the Pyromania record and everything on. Sans the guitar player, but still put on a great show. It's entertaining. They sounded amazing. Poison whooped ass. Like,
Brett Michaels is staying in practice. Yeah,
so good. Like, they opened with Look What the Cat Dragged In, that like chunky just and I was like I was just screaming in my sleep. We were like up in the nosebleeds at the Brown Stadium, and I was just like, fuck yeah, like screaming, and everyone's looking at me. I'm just like, that's the hardest riff you're gonna hear today, motherfucker. Like, so hard about that. I'm like, I want a mosh. And then
that is awesome.
Isn't the singer of Def Leppard? He's in like his 60s, isn't he? He's like in great shape. He's fucking like
Joe Elliott. He looks so good.
Yo, dude, they're
fantastic shape. They all looked super young. They put on an amazing show. Like, they were moving around. They had like this whole like catwalk thing, and they were walking out and doing whatever. They split and did like an acoustic number that was like, wasn't a ballad. It was like real fun. All of their shit, like, it sounds very modernized, but like still has that big stadium rock. Like, they were playing stuff from like, not the first record, the from 81 or whatever. With
Okay.
stuff like that, and it just sounded so modern and so huge. Like they don't just play those songs just like, you know, how they should. They vamp them up a little bit, they upgrade them a little bit to like their modern style. And like Love Bites sounded like it came out of like, you know, the last record. And it just
let me ask you this, Jordan, since we've officially gone off the reservation.
Yeah.
But Shifty Shell Shock is listening right now like, yo, I'm gonna fly to the East Coast and choke these motherfuckers. Is Hysteria a better album than Pyromania?
That's, you know what, it's put me in a tough spot here. But I will say yeah. I mean, there's like history of Mutt Lange working with that band, and every record he was like, give me more, I want more singles on this record. Like first record with him, it was like, cool, produced like 2 or 3, and then his, you know, or Pyromania was like 3 or 4, maybe even 5, and then like I think it was like 8 songs from Hysteria were singles. Like we're just standing like
something insane.
8 of 11 or 12 songs or whatever on that record, like 8 of them were singles. And it's just this huge, just like, and they were one of those bands, like they took that time between records, because obviously like Rick Allen and his accident and all this stuff, but like they took that time and just made, like they started recording that stuff in like maybe mid 84 to 85, and then just like didn't stop until the songs were as perfect as they possibly could be, and then just dumped this like stadium rock masterpiece on everyone. And it's just from song 1 just all the way to the end. I put it on. We were driving home. I think I visited my girlfriend in Cleveland when she had like a surgery last year. I was revisiting her while she was staying with her mom. Drove back home and it was like doing like a Def Leppard deep dive. Got to the end of that record and I was like, I just want to listen to that one again. Like, I don't even know if I want to go on to like Adrenalize or whatever. I'm just going to go and listen to that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so good from start to finish. But yeah, I think it is better. And it's weird how far, like, because there's like, me and my brother was talking about this, even though we weren't alive at all, like during this whole 80s period. But it always feels like the early 80s and the late 80s are two like completely different sides of like
100%. Yes.
And like there's like, they recorded Pyromania in like mid to late 82 even, and there's songs on that record that like if you put them at like the end of the 80s, like they sound like it's just completely fresh and new songs. Like they just had this big production value to them. And I think Mutt Lange is one of the best producers of that era.
100%. Yep.
And I never realized how much I loved Shania Twain until it's like her record from like 1995. She was dating or married to Mutt Lange at the time, and so he produced her record. And it's one of the most like massive sounding country records I've ever heard. The drums are just like huge snares and all this stuff, and I'm like, this is a country record.
You're making me think, Jordan. Now we could probably do an episode comparing the rise and fall of hair metal to the rise and fall of new metal. I will guarantee you there are a lot of historical echoes with. There's bands that started the sound, launched the trajectory,
and then labels signed everyone they could when that whole thing started coming about, and then something came along, you know, grunge with hair metal, and then metalcore with new metal, and just wiped them out. And then I don't know if there was
fucking great idea.
And I was going to say, I don't know if there was ever a revival of hair metal, but I know that there were bands like, is it Beautiful Creatures, who was like an early 2000s band? They were doing like
I think so.
They were basically like a modern, like modernized Motley Crue for like the early 2000s. And just like, I know there were bands around that time who started doing stuff like that too. Like even like mid 2000s, like Buck Cherry made a fucking, not Buck Cherry, what's the band who has Go Home, Get Stoned? What's that band?
I don't know. You said Buck Cherry, and all I hear is I love the cocaine. I love the cocaine.
Oh, I forget what band it is. Hinder. That's who it is. Hinder. Hinder's second record basically just sounds like Motley Crue, and it's kind of sick. And bands like, and I know that bands like Steel Panther are like a joke and everything like that, but those guys came from like the early to mid 2000s, like weird revival of that stuff. And it's, I don't know if there ever like a proper revival, but I think it'd be kind of funny if it did. I think it'd be kind of funny if there was a band out there who came out as like just their first shit is this like hair metal.
Well, but could we argue, Jordan, while we're talking about the how genres have kind of gone nuts? I know you're a fan of stuff like Dram Majesty. We can talk about
absolutely.
like Soft Kill. We can talk about Nothing. We can talk about those type of bands. They've kind of revived that new wave sound, but they've taken it in either a darker or a more progressive direction. At least I think.
Yeah, I think that too. I think it's almost timeless. It's
Mhm.
so good, and I was realizing that today that most recent Drive Majesty record is probably creeping into maybe the top 3 favorite records of all time for me.
Wow.
And it's just such a
good.
it's so good. Like if I don't know what to listen to, I just instinctively put that on. And I'm just like, put that on from start to finish. I know no skips, no starting in the middle. It's always got to be front to back. And
Is that Modern Mirror?
Modern Mirror, yeah,
It's good. It's really good.
And did kind of like a progression from their first stuff to that record. Like, there's Careless, and then they have like a whole, I think it's called Completely Careless, and it's from like 2012 to 2015, and it's got like their first EP and like EP, like all these demos and stuff like that. And you can just, from that to like the demonstration to Modern Mirror, you can hear this progression of that. But I think that they do take that like their own style of that and kind of modernize it and make it a little darker, because I think all like the darker bands who did that, they were more like post-punk stuff. They weren't so much new wave, they were post-punk, or their songs weren't, they had like a dark vibe to them, like Depeche Mode, but they weren't exactly like depressing. It was just
like the really depressing stuff was, you're right, it was more punk. It was Joy Division, it was Sisters of Mercies, it was that stuff.
There's so many bands now who are like strictly like synth driven bands who are just depressing and very like dark and moody and everything. And then because like Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode may be like a really depressing song, but you're like shaking your ass to it. It's fun.
Yeah. But I will say, I think with that genre of music, the idea of Uncanny Valley, where the 3D graphics are created, where your brain knows that something's not right and it throws you off.
Yeah,
that there's a real fine line between being genuine and coming off as a schmaltzy cover bandish type band. And that's where I think it gets very interesting with that particular genre of music, because it's really, really, you're there. Oh my God, we're total cheese. Yeah,
it's just, I was talking with a friend of mine about this one time, and just talking about these like modern bands. I was like, yeah, it's got that like 80s new wave thing. And he goes, do they do the British guy voice? And then I instantly knew what he was talking about. The real low, like,
yes,
kind of
Ian
thing
Curtis.
you do like the Ian Curtis thing, or it's just, you do like the mumbly Morrissey type thing or whatever. And like, he made a good point. Like, there's so many bands, I hear it and I look it up and I'm like, oh, these guys are from like fucking Nebraska or something. And I'm like, they're doing this British accent. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
That's all right. So, gents, let's get late. Let's sing it.
What should we rename this episode?
No, this is going to be. I think we should just call it CrazyTown Dark Horse ... and everything else, because we literally have covered everything else.
I think I don't even know how we got here, but sure.
Let's talk about what Jordan's doing though. We got to get
let's talk about what you guys got going on.
Do that. Well,
we have 13 bands to talk about, so let's start at number 1.
So I really only have about, I guess, I'm down to like, I say like down to, but like 3 things that are like full, like I guess like full time, I guess, for me. So I just we just the band I'm in, ZoneZero, that I sing for, the new metal band, the one that I'm on podcast for, we just recorded a new EP with Matt Guglielmo in New Jersey. That should be out, I don't know when, but sometime this year. And that's a lot of fun. We're going to be doing, I guess it'll probably be announced by the time this episode comes out. We're doing a tour with this band called Kingsman and Rise Among Rivals. That'll be cool. Keep an eye out for that whenever that gets announced. I play drums in a band called Ritual Eulogy, kind of metalcore, borderline deathcore, I guess. Just put out an EP in October called The Dream Is Dead. Just recorded an EP with another band I play drums for called Far From It, if you like the alt rock stuff. More like it's a lot of like the modern stuff, we love Oasis a lot, I guess is what I'll say. Still very poppy and everything, but Yeah, and then speaking of the whole like 80s new wave thing, me and the singer of Virtual Eulogy and our bass player have like a little side project we do for fun called Waltz for Venus. We play like a bunch of, it's like half our sets like covers, and it's just a fun like just light rock band. But me and the singer have that band. It used to be called Vex, but it's called Violet Light now. And we just talked about, I was like, we should throw a goth night at this venue and like play a set. We like put out that EP and then never touched it again. I was like, that'd be kind of fun to do and all that stuff. So I am doing a ton of shit, but like those 3 bands are like my central focus. But those are like my babies, and then the other ones are just kind of for fun. Like I have another project called Skin Drill, and it's literally harsh noise. I don't know how many of the new breed listeners or new metal fans or whatever. I like harsh noise, but it's what I do when I can't think of anything to write and I'm just like burnt and depressed. I'm just like, let me just make noise. But I put out a record January the 6th, I think.
Yeah, it's about a week ago. Yeah, less than a week ago.
Yeah, and it's based off the horror movie The Burning. And it's called 1981, and it's just 3 tracks of just brutal power electronics noise shit. But so I do a lot of shit, but those are the main 3. So, but I know that the primary is like the heavy music stuff with you guys. So come see ZoneZero. Ritual Eulogy is announcing a show tomorrow, the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
We're playing the Columbus date of that tour that just got announced, the last 10 Seconds of Life, Mugshot, Tactosa.
Yep.
Columbus are surrounding April the 17th if this is out by then. But yeah, check that out. So that's all I'm doing.
So let's talk about that Red Temple Pray EP too. That's really fucking good. It has like some Smashing Pumpkins vibe to it, and I love it.
That's what a lot of the Josh's inspiration is Josh Richter, the singer who's also in Bather, his big thing is the like 90s alt rock stuff, and Smash Pumpkins is a big influence, and already writing like new stuff with him, and his brother Nick is the guitar player, and then John Huffman is the bass player, and just kind of been getting together. I think every Wednesday we just get together and practice, and we've been like writing more just new stuff up. He'll just send us a song like the day before, like here's the guitars and the click, let's work on this one next practice. And it's so much slower than the EP is. It's very much so like Hum and Helmet with the new stuff, but yeah, very like 90s alt rock stuff. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of like good change of pace. And Andy Nielsen at Bricktop mixed it, and Dan Colombo mastered it. But yeah, it was fun. It was probably in April, I think we recorded that. But yeah, just a kind of fun little thing. I know that we were all kind of like burnt out on the heavy stuff, and then he was like, yeah, I'm writing a new thing and I want you to come in and kind of help us, write some stuff for it. And then he sent me the riffs, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This is just Smashing Pumpkins stuff. And so it kind of helped me. Like, I'm so used to being handed a bunch of riffs where I have to write, some blast beats or a with drums. And then it was just like, oh, this is actually challenging.
I could do 4/4 time with standard tuning. Like, wow, okay.
And half the songs it's just like, all right, like we jammed it tonight. I was like, all right, cool, let's jam this one. And then we just jam it once. And then it was like, all right, let's film that so we have the idea. And then that's it. So it's just fun. He loves Deftones. Like that's his like favorite shit is Deftones. So a lot of it's like the big drony slow riffs with the big melodic parts, but it still is sonically like really heavy and in your face. So yeah, that's just kind of how that came. I know they were a band for a minute, like years ago, and I remember they were going to be more like I guess from what I heard when they sent me stuff, it was a little bit like kind of like Doomy or Cloakroom almost.
Okay.
It was really different, and then when he was like, yeah, I'm reviving that, it's gonna be a little bit of a different of a sound, it turned out like it is now, and it's a lot of fun. So that's just kind of that's the, I know he takes it very, very seriously, and so it's so do I. It's a very fun thing, but that's kind of like our are our heavy bands busy? Is Mike White on tour? Let's do this. And so like Mike White's gone, let's do our thing because we can. Like we don't have, our other bands can't do anything since he's gone. Let's get together and do that. So
Tim, wasn't Cloakroom one of the bands that Josh suggested for the year end?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because I actually think I was busting his stones. I'm like, Josh, how come everything you picked was so fucking slow? Like, can we get something with a little bit of a pep to it? Yeah, man, I can't wait to hear that. We're definitely going to talk about that album because the EP, the song I think or two that he sent us was great.
It's a lot of fun. It's cool. I'm
It's
just stoked
good
to
listen.
putting out so much music, and I will say my favorite shit about recording this new ZoneZero EP is a lot of people and like the new metal subreddit and stuff have been asking like, well, when's the record coming out and all this stuff, and I'm like, well, you just get an EP for now. And a bunch of people are like, oh man. And I'm like, but here's the thing. If you like the singles and like the EP and all that stuff, I was like, these 5 songs absolutely smoke that shit. Like, I will say that now, like, it's the most proud I've ever been of probably anything I've been a part of. And we all like left that studio and drove home just stoked, unbelievably stoked.
It's
like,
awesome.
I'm going to put this out right now. And so very, very excited about that. And I can't wait. I would love to do another in-depth episode where I can go into some nitty-gritty about that.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
if you want to do the same thing we did with Orthodox, right? Line everybody up, bring everybody on.
We talked about that
do it
before
track by track. That would be fun.
Man. I think there's another podcast called like, I think it's like Breathing New Life or whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm slated to do an interview with them sometime soon. But yeah, I'm getting ready to go into let's talk about the new recording mode, and I haven't been in that mode in a little bit, so I'm very excited.
Well, that's coming to us. So
for sure.
That's awesome, man. That really is. It's but you talk about a palate cleanser, and for the longest time as a young music fan, I never understood why a person who's in band A would want to go do something in band B that's completely different. But the older I get and the more music I listen to, the more I really, really understand that you can't do nothing but fucking gravity blasts and mosh riffs. Like you could, but you would.
And
sometimes it gets old.
And sometimes that's what helps me write for other stuff. Like if I did this other band for so long, I'm like, oh man, I haven't done this other thing. I haven't written for this thing in a long time. Like I have some fresh ideas. Like I think my big clause this year was like, or my big like New Year's like resolution almost, as kind of corny as it is. It was like, I don't want to listen to so much heavy shit at all like one time. Like I want to just like new releases here and there, sure, but like I don't want to just dive like just always listen to stuff because I get so burnt out so easily. So I've just been listening to a bunch of like softer stuff because I feel like that makes writing new heavy stuff so much better, and so much like you don't feel like you're replicating all the stuff you've just heard a bunch.
Right.
And so that's
you're not tired, right? You've been listening. If you've been listening to fucking Slayer nonstop for 3 months, and then you go in to write a heavy album, you're gonna be like, but if you spent
it's all gonna sound like Slayer, and that's
right.
It's all gonna be like that, or you're gonna just want to write Slayer riffs. But yeah,
right.
it's what it is. And every time somebody's like, oh, you're in a why does this band do this and this band? I'm just like, because it's not, none of it's the same, and none of it's the same, and it's fun because like I may write a riff and go, oh man, like I may try to sit down and write for one band, and then I go, oh man, that riff's a little too heavy. I could use it for this band, or like, oh, that's more of a chorus than anything else. That could work for this band, and stuff like that. That's what it is. I've written riffs that I meant to put on the ZoneZero EP, and I give it to Joe from Far From It, and I'm like, actually, this works out better. So
I think you make me think of Al Jurgensen, who is the king of that, where he goes in and records and he goes, that's Lard, that's Revolting Cocks, that's Ministry, and I have no idea where this fucking thing fits, so I'm gonna have to start another project, right? Like that. Yeah. That's to me that is so wild. And like again, I love listening to. I remember back in the day where bands used to specifically pick what they were playing in between sets or what they played before they went on. And I remember the Deftones always played Portishead. And I always thought that was a wild juxtaposition, which made sense. But when we talk to like people like you, Jordan, or people who have toured, and they're like, yeah, we listen to a lot of, Johnny Cash, CCR, like, and what they listen to in the van is nothing like what you play on stage. And it's, makes you think.
And even in the studio, like we had a little like set of like speakers in the corner, and then our guitar player would have his laptop set up because he would practice every now and again, but he would just keep his Spotify up, and it was like, all right, who's going to go over and take over Spotify and listen to whatever. And maybe a couple times we were like, oh cool, like I think one of the only heavy things that we listened to was the new Year Spirit Dies EP came out while we were in the studio. Listen to it because they're friends of ours. We play with them over the summer at I guess it's a fest in Mansfield. And they're great, most wholesome people ever. They're wonderful people.
Yeah, that EP is good. It's really good.
Listen to it. We were all collectively just blaring it and just yelling woo at the breakdown parts and everything. And then maybe occasionally, like I think what was on the Chimera, the anniversary shows got announced. I was like, well, got to put on Chimera, and then listen to that a couple times. But otherwise, like we would just listen to just random stuff. I think it was a lot of like stoner rock, maybe like a few things here and there. I'm big on this new girl, Ethel Kane. She's incredible. Like her stuff's really weird because it's weird like Southern Baptist like aesthetic. It's the weird like church aesthetic, but the record she put out, the first couple songs kind of sound a little bit like Lana Del Rey, a little like Taylor Swifty almost, and then the record is about her like being like abducted and eaten, and it's this dark ass pop record, and it's so good. But like we put like that stuff on and like drum and bass stuff and ambient music and stuff. We're like, I don't want to listen to, like, we've been sitting in this little room listening to riffs over and over again for 10 hours. I don't want to listen to no guitar music anymore.
Right. Exactly.
And then we deep dive Kill Switch on the way home. So
there you go.
There you go.
All right. Mike brought his big pack of DVDs, like band DVDs. We watched like the Kill Switch one. So he's like, all right, we got to listen to the whole record. And I stuck my AirPods in. I'm like, don't do that to me, please. But yeah, we've been on a roll here, so I'll let you gentlemen go.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, so we want to thank Jordan once again for coming on. We look forward to having you on again with the whole band. We'll talk about ZoneZero. For our listeners' treat, Tim and I may have heard one or two of those songs, and you're gonna lose your fucking mind. So be ready for that. So we'll link to Jordan's stuff out in the episode. Real quick before we close out, 10 out of 10, Tim. Dark Horse.
8 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
I'll go solid 9 on this one. This one is very high up for me.
I'm going to go with a 9 as well. And I can't believe I'm actually saying that in 2023, because in 2002, Jay would have punched 2023 Jay in the face and said, go listen to fucking Jane Doe, you idiot. So thanks again, Jordan, for coming on. New Breed _podcast on both Twitter and Instagram, newbreedpodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you heard, leave us a comment. Again, keep it on YouTube. You YouTube commenters are nuts. Keep it up. And until next time, this is the New Breed Podcast saying cheers.
See ya.